back and forth, starting to feel like I don't know you. How do I restart without losing focus? Need you to reset me like a device. No need for shame, he took it from you and from me. That pressure's paid, throw it away. Oh, you got love for me, we locked in forever. I pray you stay with me, so shine together. Do you even hear me still? You told me you'll be always here.
I've been wanting to have this conversation and have you on because, you know, we know that you are an Instagram girly.
Yes.
We know that you have developed yourself to becoming like the woman that you are today. You also wear many hats. You know, you're a mom, you're a wife.
Yeah.
You're a boss lady. Like, you really are multifaceted. However, I do feel like this is an opportunity for us to get to know you as Aicha, the person, the individual. So in relation to your development on social media, I kind of want to know, like, how did everything begin for you?
I feel like everything begun when I was kind of like in middle school.
Okay.
I feel like that's where I realized that I love the internet.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of just like had this confidence. And I don't know if you remember Facebook days.
I do.
Where we would just like post our selfies for absolutely no reason. And I don't know, it just kind of started in that way where I loved fashion. I've always loved fashion in some sort of capacity. I didn't think it was a passion. I just loved it. And I loved posting online, and I loved, you know, that sense of like community online.
Right.
And like growing up, I had very strict parents. And so I just found myself always like having friends and building relationships via like the internet. And then like when I started posting and like doing my outfits, it just kind of like grew organically. And I later found out like that was something that God like ordained from the beginning, you know, and it was something that God was going to use as a vehicle for purpose later on. And so, and that's really kind of like how it started.
Right.
Very organically. Yeah.
Okay. That's like, I feel like that's when you know, like, okay, this is for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had strict parents, though. Can
Yes.
you kind of like tell us a little bit about your childhood? What was it like, you know, growing up with strict parents?
Honestly, my parents were strict, but they weren't too strict, okay? They were still strict in a sense where, like, my family's Muslim, so there was that cultural, religious upbringing that I had as well. My parents are from Guinea, so we're Guinean, and they immigrated here right before they had us. So they were still very cultural and still very in touch with how we did things like back home.
Right.
And so I grew up in a Muslim home. I grew up in a home where, you know, it was very traditional, you know, and, you know, girls, we don't go out, we don't do certain things. And I grew up Muslim, so I was raised around the religion. And I think like my parents just kind of grew up, like we just grew up in that type of way. And so, I don't know. I felt like it did have an impact on obviously who I am today. It led me to want more and want to be free. And I think that kind of like shifted how I wanted to live my life.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you feel like because of your upbringing, you kind of had to like work around like that, like your parents kind of having, like in that sense, you know, did you ever feel like your parents had a say, or how was it when they found out that like, okay, my daughter is kind of being popping on social media? Like, what was that like?
They didn't even understand it at first.
Yeah?
Till this day, my parents don't really
understand that.
They don't really understand it as much because they're not online, right?
True.
Like my mom, I mean, they have Facebook, but they don't use it, you know?
Right.
So they're not even like the hip parents that like see the things, like they don't see anything.
Okay.
So at first I was just telling them like, well, it's just like 1,000 people or 2,000, and then it grew and they just didn't care. They just didn't care. But it was when they saw that like when I lived with my parents anyways, and I started getting like brand deals, they would see the packages and they were like, where are you getting the money to buy these things?
They
And
were
I'm
alarmed. Like,
they were, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I was like, well, people are sending it to me to promote.
Right.
And so, you know, here and there, my mom would ask, okay, well, let me see how you're promoting it. But they were never really invested in it because they didn't quite understand the significance of it.
Right.
And till this day, like one day my dad was just like, oh, are you still promoting? And then I'm like, yeah, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, and he doesn't even understand like
Right.
anything
right,
about it, like
right.
the significance. They just don't care.
Is it like, would you say that it's like the work aspect of influencing that they don't get? Like, how do you make money from posting pictures or being online?
They understand the concept.
Okay.
I don't think they understand the significance.
Okay,
And
okay.
especially because I haven't lived with my parents for a while.
Right.
So they are like, that's it. I'm just like, yeah, it's my job. Like, that's what I
Right.
say. Like, you know, I'm getting paid to do the promotion. And they're like, okay, well, cool. You know, like, good for you.
Right,
you know?
right.
But yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
So in that sense, so now it's like you're building yourself on social media. Your parents are kind of getting the drift of what's going on.
Yeah.
But this is something that's becoming a little bit more consistent, you know, when you're growing in that aspect. I kind of wanted to ask, you know, as you're growing, I'm sure that it didn't start by you necessarily promoting content or, you know, it was like a point where it was like, oh, these people want me to, you know, do this for them. When was that point when you clicked that, okay, I can really like, I could leverage this thing?
Yeah.
When was that for you?
I think I would say like fully after I gave my life to Christ. Because before I really had this idea like, yeah, it's just social media.
Right.
You know, I didn't really see other women, especially like around my age group and around me really, that made this a career or did more than just promoting products. And I knew like, I've always told myself I want a clothing line. That's like my dream. I want to have like design my own clothes and have a fashion brand. And so at the time, before I gave my life to Christ, I was like, this is just going to help me get customers, you know?
Right.
And then it wasn't until after God really revealed to me the purpose and why I have this platform, you know? And it's much bigger than money, and it's much bigger than, you know, followers, their souls, you know? Like this is, I'm entrusting you with a group of women or men, and I want you to lead by example.
Right.
And I think I still don't even fully grasp like what God really wants to do with this, because in such a short like time, I would say since 2018, 2019, that's when I realized like, whoa, God, like this, you have plans to use my platform in a way that I can't even imagine. And so teach me, show me the way, you know? And I think that was just like my posture. Like, God, like, what do I do next? Like before I post, I always pray. That's why I'm like, girl, we need to pray right now, because like, that's just how I am, you know? Like, because I realize that it's not mine. I realize that like God has given this to me. So it's my responsibility to do what I need to do for God. You know what I mean? Does that make
Like
sense?
you're allowing yourself to be led by God.
Yes.
So if it comes to a point where it's like, this is not it, you won't do it if God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That is very deep, because I feel like, especially even nowadays, you have Christians that will look at something and be like, yeah, I know God doesn't want to, but the money's looking right, or the attention's looking right. So to me, this is really deep. And you touched on your life changing in that way once you gave your life to Christ. And you also spoke about how you were raised in a Muslim family. Can you kind of like touch on that and kind of paint the picture for us? Like, what was that whole transition like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I would say after I graduated high school, I moved to Toronto. And then I kind of like went through a very difficult season of my life. And God just snatched me back, okay? And he told me to move back to Ottawa. And that was the first time that I had an encounter with Christ, because before then I was identifying myself as a Muslim, because I didn't know Christ. I didn't know really Christians.
Right.
I never read a Bible. I've like nothing. And so growing up, I always identified myself as a Muslim. And then when I was in Toronto and I was like, I could say one of the lowest points of my life, God encountered me and I knew it was Jesus Christ. And that's when I gave my life to Christ and I moved back to Ottawa. I started going to Campus Fresh, my church. And since then, my parents, let me take it back. So when that happened and I came back to Ottawa, my parents were a bit confused at first because they were like, how, because I didn't tell them that it was Christ because I was so scared, right? I was like, they're going to disown me. Like they're just going to banish me from the family. Like, what am I going to do? I'm like the first Christian in our entire lineage that we know, you know? And my parents are very serious about their religion. And so I was so afraid of what they would do and what they would say. What would that mean for me and my family, you know? And so when I came back, I just told them it was God. I was like, yeah, like I met God. And I didn't go into the specifics until one day, like God really told me, like, you need to take responsibility and give me glory, you know? And even in the midst of your fear and uncertainty, you need to be bold enough to say, like, I am your God. And I had to just swallow my pride and swallow my fear, really, and say, like, yeah, like, God is the one that saved me, and it's Jesus Christ. And whatever happens, happens, you know? And then my parents were so upset, and they were, like, my dad was very disappointed. But honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I just, like, saw the hand of God in that whole situation because, like, it's really uncalled for, you know, especially where I, like, my culture and my religion, it's just, like, it was just very uncalled for the way they were so calm and collected. And I just knew, like, that was just a hand of God, like, allowing me to step into a new season of my life. And yeah, so since then, now they're very accepting of it. My sister gave her life to Christ, my little brother as well. And so it's kind of like, they just realized, like, this is my life. And they were able to see the change in me. And I think that kind of really encouraged them to support me in what I was doing. And so even though they didn't agree with it, they can still support me because they can see, like, wow, my daughter's no longer how she was before. She's a completely different person. And she's able to influence her siblings as well. And so yeah, that's how it's been.
I think that's really deep because it's, like you said, it's uncalled for.
Yeah.
It's not something that you hear often, especially if you're grown up or you're rooted in one religion.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, I feel like the same way that you said you felt like it was God.
Yeah.
It's like anybody else that is rooted in a specific faith to feel like I'm supposed to go here. It's like it has to be something different. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm like, now you're saying that, you know, you went through this journey, you let your parents know and everything, and now it's like, did you feel like that was the moment where like, ooh, I can breathe now, I can really serve God?
Yeah, definitely. It was crazy because as soon as I told them, probably a week later, I went on my encounter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went on my encounter. For people who don't know, it's like a retreat where you're away for like 48 hours and no phone, nothing. And then you just encounter God. And so I went on my encounter. As soon as I came back, I found a new place to stay. And it was kind of like God orchestrated everything so that I could start a new life and a new journey. And I can be like unapologetic about it. And I can be free and just really grow in the environment that he wants me to grow in. And so, yeah, and that's pretty much like what happened. Like after I went on my encounter, I ended up living with a friend that went on the encounter as well. And so we were really like there for each other and helping each other grow in Christ. And I had, of course, my pastors and everything. So I was surrounded by people that walk the same walk as me.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey on the encounter? Like, did you go in there expecting something? Because now it's like you're really fresh. So people are probably telling you should go to an encounter. And you're just like, okay, like, what was it like for you, like in terms of what you expected to go into and what you came out of once you went there?
Honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting. I just wanted to be different.
Okay.
Like everyone was saying, oh, this is what's going to happen. This was going to happen. And I was like, I can't relate because I've never experienced that before.
Right.
But I've had just like that small encounter with God to know that anything could happen.
Right.
And so I was very like, my expectation was God to just do something crazy. I just wanted God to change me. I just wanted a new reality, essentially. And that was my headspace, like going in. That was my expectation. I just didn't know what to expect. And then when I went, and it was like, it was very deep, you know. And what I loved the most about it was just about all of the little trauma that you know, like forgot about in your life and coming back to the surface and actually dealing with the deep-rooted issues. And that was something that I really appreciated. And I think when you are not aware of the need for this, you can really go through life thinking that what you're doing is okay and how you're feeling is okay and it's normal, but it's not. And so I think it was really life-changing for me, you know. I never went back, and I think it was the best day. I think it was one of the best days of my life, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in that perspective, you've gone to the encounter, and now you're leaving transformed. What are your realizations, kind of like coming back to the real world? Like, are there things that before you weren't really sensitive to, and like you came and it's like basically what was life for you after that point?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I left the encounter, I was very surprised at what I bottled in for so long. And coming into the world after, it was kind of like a veil has been lifted from my eyes. Like I felt like I could see things just way more clearly. And of course, I was sensitive to everything, you know, and I was much more protective of my soul, of my spirit, of, you know, what I consumed, especially in like society. Like I feel like we were kind of brainwashed into, you know, liking certain things and speaking a certain way, and our mindset was just, you know, perverted in all areas. And I think that going through the encounter, it really revealed to me, like, this is not normal, you know, to think this way is not normal, to act this way is not normal. And it wasn't even who you were, you know, it was just what life and society and, you know, essentially the enemy placed upon you, you know. And so I just literally came out a new person. And I think I just came out as the person that God intended for me to be, minus all of the other things.
Okay, so like, it's almost like prior to that, like, you probably, like, the conviction just wasn't the same type thing. Okay.
Like,
so
I didn't have a conviction.
Okay.
You know, like, you can have an intuition, and I think everyone has an intuition. But a conviction is almost like it has to be led by the Holy Spirit, you know? And I wasn't led by the Holy Spirit because I didn't have it. And so, or have him, sorry. And so it was kind of like a lot of the things that I thought was okay, it's not okay. Like, it's not okay. And I think that was like the main thing for me, you know, like my mind had to be completely renewed, and it was.
So now you're coming out and you are now this renewed person. You've encountered God on another level at this point. What does your surrounding look like? Because now you were probably had a different type of people around you prior. Now you're giving your life to Christ and you're starting this journey. It's like, how are you being received?
I think the beauty of what God did was that he had removed a lot of people before my encounter. And there was a lot of friendships that I had that I lost, and I didn't understand at that moment, you know. But looking back, I was like, oh God, like, you know what you're doing, you know, like you knew that person couldn't be in my life for this season, because it would have brought me a whole nother direction, you know. It would have influenced me to do so much, like things that I no longer can do, you know. And so coming outside of the encounter, I had new friends. None of my old friends, like I didn't speak to anybody, you know. And it was really that like season of isolation. And it was almost like I was a child learning how to live again. Because I was living a completely different lifestyle, you know. And yeah, that was really what it was, like new friends, new new family in a sense, you know, like I just, everything was new, like everything, new house, new car. Well, I didn't have a car at the time, but like, you know, just like new everything, you know, and I think that that's really, it was great, but it was foreign, you know, and I was just kind of like I said, I was okay with it because I realized everything that I had known before prior to the encounter was not the way that God wanted it to be, you know? And so I was okay with starting over. You know, I had to like get a new job. Well, actually I started Beauty Kingdom, my business at that time. So there were so many things that was just new. Yeah, after that season.
Okay, so this is like, you're like in an era where it's like you're getting to know yourself. You're almost introducing the world to a new version of you. But at this point, it's like you were already pretty grown on social media. So like, it's almost like you filtered yourself to a certain degree, because me, I've been following you for a long time. So it's like, I remember there was one point where it seemed like all of your posts kind of changed down to like how you spoke, down to like your stories and all that stuff. Can you kind of talk to us about that process of like posting a certain type of way and now it's like, this is the version that you want to be, you know, seen as?
I think it was just me like overflowing what God was already placing inside of me. I was just a different person, right? And so I don't even remember some of the things I posted before. And I remember I would post some wild stuff, you know? And so it was just a natural thing. It was like my appetite was different, you know? I didn't like the same things I used to like. I didn't want to like the same things. So I just naturally didn't gravitate towards it, you know? And so I think what you produce is what's really inside of you. And so my production was different because my inner self was different. And so it was just so natural. Like I can't even tell you what happened. I just wanted I was just different. So I did different, you know, and I spoke differently, and I think that was what really like made me so I guess like kind of like shocked because you don't realize how much your environment really influences who you are as a person. And so that's just really, it was just so natural, and I think I'm still developing, I'm still changing, and I think even right now, like, I'm not the same person I was when I was in 2019 when I had given my life to Christ, you know, and also with age, I've grown, I've seen things, I'm wiser, I'm more knowledgeable in certain aspects, I have a family, I'm married, you know, like the things that I consumed then and consume now is completely different. And so my production is different as well.
Wow. Yeah. So you said that it was so natural, like it flowed naturally. So there was no point that you were worried at all that it might affect the people that are following you or the attention, like?
Yeah, definitely.
You were worried?
Oh yes, yeah. Like in the beginning, it was more so like that imposter syndrome, and kind of like feeling like I was a hypocrite because for so long I was telling y'all to pop bottles and I was in the club, you know what I'm saying? Like I was smoking weed, I was drinking, I was doing all these things, and like how can like, and people knew that, you know, like everybody knew that, you know? And so when I had given my life to Christ and I changed my content, it was kind of like, people are going to be like, who does this girl think she is, you know? And I felt that. And you just cannot care, you know? And I think that transformation was so personal to me that I couldn't care less about what others thought about me. And like more so people that I never met in person, you know? And I think throughout the years, I kind of like accepted the fact that there was going to be people that left. Like so many people unfollowed me, but there were so many people that followed me because they liked the new me, you know? And I just, like, your tribe will find you. And I think it was just one of those things where I was okay losing to gain something else. Yeah.
No, I think that's incredible. I feel like, especially nowadays, we are often so rooted in what will somebody think about us? Like, how will this affect anything afterwards? But like you mentioned earlier, it's almost like because you did that and you changed, like your life got better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
your relationships got better.
Yeah,
Your friendships
exactly.
got better. Like,
Exactly.
everything, it's almost like everything around you embodied the new you, or like welcomed the new you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit, because now it's like you are freshly new in God. I feel like it was not long after that you got married and like started a family. Can you talk to us about that? Like, is that something that you even like thought that like, yeah, I'm gonna be married this young?
No, definitely not. Like, definitely not. It was funny because I never dreamt of marriage before. I never even thought like, when am I gonna get married? Because I was so, I just want to get my bag, like, you know, let me get my money. I didn't think of a family. Like, it was kind of just like a passing thought. Like, I have time, you know? And so when I had met my husband, my now husband at that time, it was like, it was weird because it was like, what are we doing? Like, you know, it was so natural.
Right.
And it was very purposeful. Like, God really ordained us to meet and to serve together and to grow together. Like, we went on the same encounter. We got baptized at the same baptism.
Wow.
We served under the same pastors. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so specific and so detailed. Like, God really orchestrated everything so that we could grow together and do this walk together. But I never thought that it would happen so quickly. And I can confidently say that if it didn't, I wouldn't be the person I am today, because there was so much that I've learned through marriage and through, you know, just having children. And it just forced me to grow up. It forced me to take things seriously. And it forced me to show up as a different person. And so, yeah, it wasn't expected.
It wasn't expected.
It really wasn't expected.
This is exactly how God ordained your life to be.
Exactly.
If I could ask you, you know, looking back at your life, looking at everything you've gone through from point A to now, and, you know, your traumatic events, the very pivotal moments of your life and everything. If God was to tell you today, I can restart your life from zero until now, would you at any point change anything about that at all? Or would you?
If there's one thing I could change, I think it would be delayed obedience. Yeah.
Go deeper. Yeah.
I think there was a lot of things concerning my social media business. Like, I had like 2 other businesses that, you know, like Beauty Kingdom, Aicha Drame. Like, that one, it was out of disobedience. You know, like, I wasn't meant to start another brand at that time. And that was because I was disobedient. You know, and even Beauty Kingdom, it could have been so much more, but I let fear and fear of not rejection, but fear of failure to like step in. And it's another form of disobedience. And so I think, like, if there was one thing I can change, is just trust God. Like, that seems so cliche, but like, God knows what he's doing, you know? And no matter how your circumstances look like, it's like he knows your end from your beginning. He knows what's going to happen. And so if he gives you a word and if he gives you a direction, just act on it. Don't wait. You know, don't be scared. Because it's like, what are you scared of? And like, that's what I tell myself all the time. I'm like, why am I scared? Like, God has proven again and again and again that like he has you, and he will keep you, and he will, you know, guide you, and wherever he's guiding you, it's good for you. And so I've just, like, that's the only thing I can think of. It's like, just let God be God and trust him and never step out of line, you know, of the will of God.
So in your perspective though, because you did speak about a desire to have your own clothing line, right? And Maison Drame was a clothing line. So how did you differentiate that this is, like, how did you differentiate that this was not what it was supposed to be right now?
I mean, I was just doing a lot. I think when I had my son, I was young, right? So I had him, I was like 21. I think I just turned 21. And so I was very young, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to let a baby slow me down. Like,
Okay,
I'm going to do what I
right.
need to do. Like, I have goals. Like, this is not going to hinder my growth, you know?
Right.
And that was a terrible mindset to have, because I believe, like, life is in seasons. There's seasons where you just need to chill. There's seasons where God is going to tell you, rest, you know, like, enjoy what I'm doing in your life right now.
Right.
And, like, learn how to steward that well before adding on more things.
Right.
And I was getting ahead of myself, ahead of God. And I wanted to do everything that I dreamt of doing. And I was, like, almost so pressed and so fearful that I was going to, like, I'm telling you, fear of failure was, like, the biggest thing for me, because I was like, I'm not going to let a child, like, make me fail at life.
Right,
and that's like the worst mindset you can have, but when you're in it, it's different, you know? And I think that Maison Drame was birthed out of fear. It was birthed because I'm like, nah, I need to I need to do what I need to do. Like, this is my dream. Like, nothing is going to get in the way of my dream, you know? And so it was birthed in a season where I didn't have the capacity to do what was needed, you know, for that to be good and to be right. And like, and so that was definitely a season where I was like, wow, like, I had sales, people bought the clothes, but was I able to fulfill everything? Was I able to show up in all the other areas of my life efficiently? No, I wasn't, you know, and I was getting burnt out, and I was getting upset and depressed because I was like, there's just too much on my plate right now, you know? And so, I think that answered the question.
Yes, that you did. And I want to touch back on the obedience thing, because recently, you know, you've been active, like you have been more, like we're seeing you outside more, you know, and you're speaking. And I feel like this is also opening the door for people to get to know you and to really, like, just hear you speak. And recently at the conference that you were a panelist at the conference.
Divine Influence.
Exactly, DIFCON. And you spoke about influencing and the obedience with influencing. Can you kind of touch on that and what, like, why did you, like, how did you share that, and why it seems that obedience is something that's very significant for you? So
I think, I'm trying to remember exactly what I said in the video, but it was just about recognizing your purpose and walking in obedience according to your purpose. And I think unless you know what you are called to do, you're not going to know what to do. Unless you know your purpose is, you're not going to create the necessary boundaries for you to really do what God is calling you to do. And so when it comes to obedience, it's about, like, just like I said, you need to do what God is telling you to do, or not do what he's telling you not to do, you know? And, like, even when it comes to my, like, social media, down to, like, now I have a new conviction. I'm not going to use, like, secular music for my reels and my TikToks, And for a long time, I felt that in my spirit, you know? But I just, like, oh, but they're going to go viral. Like, I need to use the music, like, you know? And then it was like, God was like, okay, but I can surpass the algorithm, you know? Like, just obey me. And, like, the last time, I think it was, like, literally last week, I started that. And my post did well. And I was like, oh, wow, like, God, you're right. You know what I mean? Like, and I think, like, a lot of people move according to trends and according to what they think should be done or how they think it should be done. But it's like, when you walk in obedience according to your purpose, it's going to be done perfectly for you to thrive and for you to do well. And it's going to be done in such a way where you're going to feel fulfilled in the process, you know? Like, when I had Maison Drame, sure, it was getting sales, but I was overstressed. I was, you know, burnt out. And so I wasn't even able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. But when you're being obedient according to your purpose, it's like, now I can sit here with you and I'm like, I'm not burnt out and I'm not, like, depressed or sad, you know, but I'm still doing so much, you know, and I'm fulfilled and I'm happy while I'm doing it. And so I think that's where I was coming from. It's like, we need to know what God is saying specifically for us. Don't mirror what you see online, and don't mirror your friend or your sister. Like, you need to know for yourself, and then you can walk accordingly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. This makes me, like, you know, I know now, you know who you are. You know what you bring. You know, like, the woman that you know, have become.
Yeah.
Do you truly feel like you are walking in your purpose?
Yes.
Like, yes.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I can say that with a smile because I think it was just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm always where I'm supposed to be, you know? And I think like, I'm telling you that obedience, like if God tells me to do this, I will do it.
Yeah.
And I can say that confidently now because before I wasn't like that.
Right.
And so I was always like, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Like,
Right.
oh, this is so uncertainty, this anxiety of like,
Right.
am I really supposed to do this right now?
Right.
And like now I have like a confirmation. It's like a settling feeling that like, yes, I am, because
Right.
when he gave me a word, I did it.
Right.
You know, and so I can confidently say that like even down to Art of Influence, like the workshop I'm doing, I'm hosting next week. It's like I wasn't going to do that because like I said, I'm really introverted, you know, like I can be at home for weeks and like not even step outside, you know, and I can just be like by myself with my family and I'm okay with that. And I think like that was something where I had to trust God and be like, God, like I really don't want to do this, you know, but I know there's a purpose, so I'm going to say yes. And now that I've said yes, I'm so happy because I can see just like parts of me like being revealed in this process of just even putting it together and seeing how much I do have a burden for women and how much I do care for women and wanting them to be happy and wanting them to live a purposeful life, you know? And so, yeah, I am.
No,
I talk a lot.
No, that's good. That's good. You're saying so much good things. Like I'm listening to you like, wow, this girl is so wise. Like honestly, truly, it kind of also just to go in, you know, I'm hearing a lot of you like fully trusting God.
Yeah.
And fully trusting your process.
Yes.
And I want to know, you know, in your own relationship with God, how do you know that God is telling you something? Like, you know, somebody could be watching this and be like, but how does she know that it's God? Like, what if it's just your thoughts? Like, how do you know?
Yeah. I think as I always say, like, you need to know God to know his voice.
Right.
Right? Like his word says, my sheep know my voice.
Right.
And so the closer in intimacy you are with God, the easier it is for you to filter any other voice, you know? So now I can sit here and be like, that was God because it's aligned with his word.
Right.
And that's another thing, like I really try to read my Bible, you know, like I try to make it fun. I try to look for women on like on YouTube and have conversations. Like there's another platform called like Magnify.
Oh yeah, I started watching it.
Yeah, it's so good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like women that look like you that are in the same industries that you're interested in, speaking about how they're combining like, you know, fashion or business with the word of God. And those are little things that I do to discern like, yes, this sounds like a God thing, you know? So it's not just reading my Bible and like praying. It's about like everything that I digest and everything that I consume is aligned with the word of God. And that's how I'm able to really discern like that doesn't look like God because I know God. You know, that doesn't sound like God. I know this is my fear. I know this is the enemy. I know this is my pride speaking because that's not how God speaks, you know? And I think that that's how you know, like you just need to have that relationship, you know, you need to have that intimacy. And it sounds deeper than what it is. Like I'll literally pull up to God and be like, yo, what you did to me today, I have a problem with you. Like seriously, like I'll talk to him like he's my home girl, you know? And I think that just makes it easier for me and relatable, you know? And sometimes I'll tell God, like today I was like, listen, you know, last week, you almost had me, like, please, like, this week, like, let's tone it down a little bit, like, help me with this. And sometimes I can come to him and be like, I'm really mad at you for doing that, you know, like, that made me feel a certain way. And I think people think that God is just this, like, power that's just so mean and he wants you to, you know what I mean? But, like, he loves you and he wants to hear you and he wants to, like, have a relationship with you. And I think the same way you have a homegirl is the same way you can talk to God. And that's how I'm able to really know, like, this sounds like my homegirl. You know, like, you can tell when it's your homegirl, when it's not. you can tell when it's your boyfriend or your husband. And it's the same way that I can tell with God now, because I've built that relationship with him.
Right. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the art of influence, because, you know, I'm going to be there. Yes. So I was really excited because it really seemed like you are branching out in a way that I haven't seen before. So it's like, I'm excited to see what, like, your why in this whole, you know, conference that you're doing. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Art of Influence started off as a workshop. Just basically my desire for women to know more about themselves, and kind of like gathering women that want to discover their purpose, and not only discover it, they want to walk in their purpose, and discovering their gifts, right? Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't even know what they're good at, and I think as women, it's very important for us, like, we need to know who we are. We need to know our identity. And if we don't know our identity, how can we live a life? How can we be happy? We're talking about soft life. You can't live a soft life if you're not soft life in your mind. You need to do the inner work. And I think people don't really realize that the amount of inner work that it takes to live a certain level of happiness and joy. And even like, if we're talking about finances, like being able to monetize the work that you do or monetize your passion, like you need to do a lot of inner work, you know? And so I have a licensed doctor, like therapist that's going to be, and I was very keen on that because I realized that a lot of us are suffering in silence, and a lot of us have a lot of mental health issues that we don't even know. You know, we're not even aware of. And these, like, our mental health affects everything that we do. You're able to, like, your ability to produce, it goes straight back to your mind, you know, your ability to love, your ability to show up, even if it's on social media and being a content creator, an influencer. Like, your mind is like the forefront, you know, and everything you do flows from your heart and in your mind. And so I wanted us to have that, like, kind of like workshop where we are dissecting everything, you know, from the inner work to the mental health, our self-confidence, into, you know, discovering our purpose, into monetizing and creating a life that's filled of, you know, financial freedom, and like being able to have multiple streams of income. Like, those are all things that I personally value, and I think that every woman should have, and every woman should be able to experience, you know, in their life. And so this is just the one of many workshops, you know, like right now, Art of Influence is, you know, catered to being influential in all aspects of life, you know, being influential not just online but offline, and how you are with your family, your coworkers, your business, everything, but also being online and standing for something and showing up and creating content that you love, even if it's beauty or fashion or, you know, cooking videos, like that's still showing up and showing yourself that, like, I'm walking in my purpose. And I'm being influential, you know? And so that's really what Art of Influence is. And like, I want it to be where, like, we gather and we network, we meet, you know, beautiful women that look like us, that have the same mindset as us, and just want better for themselves, you know? And I think that's lacking, you know? We don't really have those spaces. And I just wanna create that.
No, that's like, that is something that I feel like will be a game changer. It's something that's very needed, and I don't think that people see how needed it is. So that's the main reason why I'm excited to go, because I know there's something to receive there. Just to wrap it up just a little bit, if you could give any advice to anybody that is watching, and that just anything that you could give in terms of like just your own life, your own, you know, journey, what advice would you give?
I would give, this is gonna sound so churchy. I'm sorry, y'all. But this is the truth. It's my truth, you know? So I think as we can, like, just throughout this conversation, we can see that, like, something that was pivotal for me was when I gave my life to Christ and I built my relationship with him. And I think, like, if you want to know yourself, if you want to know what you're called to, if you want to walk in purpose, if you want to be happy and like not like a surface level happy, you want to have a joy that like surpasses everything, any triumph, every trial that you have, you still have that joy. I think like you need to have a relationship with God. Like you need to see God for yourself and have him reveal things about you, you know, and that's my advice. Like it's very simple, but it's like everything that I do flows from my relationship with God and him revealing to me who I am, you know, and now I'm able to like, to move differently. I'm able to be like, well, that doesn't align with who I know God is calling me to. So I can't partake in that. I can't do this. I can't say that. I can't wear that, you know, because I want to do what God is calling me to do. And so I think have that relationship with him, and God will reveal everything to you, you know, like I feel like people are looking for answers in different things and, you know, witchcraft, you know, like in the universe and everything. And people they just want answers. They just want a knowing, you know, and I think our lives are so uncertain. Like we don't know what tomorrow holds for us. But one thing you know for sure is the word that God has given you. And you can stand on that. And even when life doesn't look like that word, you can still hold it and be like, God, you said this is going to happen. You said that I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be joyful. I'm going to have, you know, a husband, a pop-in business. And I'm holding on to that word. And so I think that's like the main advice I have.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? You have honestly exceeded all my expectations because I received a lot from this conversation, if I'm being so honest with you. And I'm really grateful to have had this conversation with you. But yeah, girl,
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, like you, like honestly, it's like I truly feel like people are gonna watch this and get to know the personal version of you because it's like it's different when I see you around. It's different when I see you online. But to have a conversation with you like this, it's like whoa. Yeah. I can like you can tell when somebody is truly their most authentic self.
Wow.
And like
glory to God.
No, for real. Like
glory to God.
I'm so mind blown right now. But thank you so much for being my guest.
Going back and forth, starting to feel like I don't know you. How do I restart without losing focus? Need you to restart me like a device. No need for shame, he took it from you and from me. That pressure's paid, throw it away. Oh, you got love for me, locked in forever. I pray you stay with me, so shine together. Do you even hear me still? You told me you'll be always here.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I know we talked about it a little bit, but I was like, I prayed before I even said yes to you. I was like, girl, let me go pray about it. And like, God really told me like, this is purpose, you know, and what you're doing is like, you're revealing a new layer of humans, you know, and I don't know, this was so deep, but it's true, you know, you're like, it's almost like an onion and you're like peeling the layers, you know, and you're getting to the source of things. And I think that's so purposeful. Yeah.
Ooh. It's crazy that you say that, if I'm being so honest with you, because I prayed on my way here and I told God to give me a word today. Like I told God, let Aicha, like let the pastoral come out and let the prophecy come out. And what you just said is giving me, like, I don't want to cry.
I don't want to say, you want me to go? Like, I definitely don't cry. Don't cry, girl. You're makeup, girl. No, but like, honestly, I literally just, that's what I saw. Like, just the onions. And it's kind of like, you're going to get to the root of each person and it's going to set people free. And sometimes, like, all we need to know is what someone goes through to feel validated, to feel like, wow, like I can move on and I can, like some people want to kill themselves, you know, some people want to commit suicide and it's because they feel misunderstood. And you're going to like bring people to the forefront so people can feel understood. And it's going to be like, literally like someone is going to give someone a reason to live, a reason to be like, I'm not the only person that goes through this. I'm not the only person that's been through that. And so I'm able to move forward and I'm able to be happy and to live a life. Like they've come through from it, so I can go through it as well. And I think that's exactly what your platform is going to do. No cry, girl.
That was my prayer. And you said word for word. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. No, thank you, God. Thank you so much. Like, I'm so grateful for this conversation, regardless of anything.
Me too.
But yeah.